Hey yo, I'm Cool Hand Lex, and I'm back with Deckademics DJing Production School and Gear Supply. And here we have it, the Pioneer DJM-S11 for Record Box and Serato DJ Pro, which is the integration I'm going to stick with looking at this mixer going forward. As the successor to the hugely popular DJM-S9, this release has been long and eagerly awaited. So who am I to make you wait any longer? The DJM-S11 sees light 5 years after the S9 was released, and in my case, exactly 5 years and 2 days since I bought the first S9 that hit Indianapolis to the day the S11 showed up at the school. The S11 shows its heritage by combining and updating the features and design layouts from the DJM-S9, most notably in the bottom half of the faceplate and with its mostly plastic build, and takes some heavy design and technologic cues in the top half from the well-loved DJM-909 mixer from the early 2000s. So much so, there's a special edition S11 that highlights that even further with a 909 paint job and orange load screen as an homage to the classic. No paint job can pay the honor quite like bringing over the touchscreen though. The 4.3-inch screen operates between 30 and 50 frames per second, and the color is rich and true in hue with the waveforms you see on your laptop. Like the 909, the trim and filter pots fall in line with the EQ, which really makes the best use of space and keeps all the volume knobs together up and out of the way. So while the top half of the S11 looks like an updated and hybridized 909 kind of thing, the bottom half of the mixer is basically identical to the S9, so all that muscle memory translates if you have it. The crossfader is the Magvel Fader Pro and has actually been a lot of fun to put through the paces. The stem has been redesigned and reinforced to withstand more rigorous use, and while time will have to tell there, it's reported there's 30% less lateral movement against the rails, and it certainly feels that way. The tight tolerance has fast turned the S11 into my favorite mixer to scratch on. Curve and tension knobs are still up front, as is everything else from the front of the S9. Same with the ins and outs, except the S11 now has 2 ports for your Serato accessories, phase, 12, CDJs, or controllers. Back up top, the pads are a bit larger now and rectangular instead of square, which makes it easier to get 2 fingers on there when you want to go full Buck Rogers with it. And the pad modes on here are absolutely stacked. Effectively, each button is a bank of 4 modes, accessed by tapping the button and using shift, or by turning on multi-tap in the options to forego the need for shift. Main modes are printed on the button, the secondary mode using shift is printed below, and the third and fourth modes are absent from the face. I'm going to run through it, and there's a lot to remember here, but on YouTube, Prion Jani has made an excellent video where he thoroughly explains each of the pad modes, and he has a handy reference guide available to download too, so check that out. You can also opt to have the pad mode displayed on the waveform screen from inside the menu as well. First up is hot cues. Hold shift and tap once for the secondary layer, which is pitch play. Double tap for the third layer, which here is a gate cue, which is like instantly jumping to internal mode for the duration of your press, and you can come out of it by pressing the mode button again. The fourth layer is accessed by holding shift and double tapping the mode button, or by tapping the button 4 times if you're set to multi. The fourth layer for this and all the others is a user mode where you can freely assign pads to your most needed functions within Serato. Next up is roll, split with beat jump if you have it active. With slicer loop is the secondary, cue loop is the third, rounded out with the second user mode. Then save loops, save flips, the third layer is auto loops on top with controls on bottom, and then the third user mode. So the last up is simpler, and going in reverse order in an attempt to build some suspense here. The fourth layer is the fourth user mode. The third layer is transport controls when you're using internal mode, complete with tempo adjustments, pitch bends, key lock and sync control, and a cue and play button. The secondary layer here is the all-new scratch bank pad mode, exclusive to the S11 and set to be a real game changer. Consider it your sampler on hyperdrive, as you've got 4 banks of 8 samples, or songs or acapellas or drops quickly at your disposal. You can choose how and where you want the sample to play from, just like with the sampler, and this opens up some really creative mixing and production opportunities, or just the chance to bust a quick scratch and get back to the music. These pad modes are independent to the channel, and can be split even further between the top and bottom rows of pads by holding any 2 buttons to assign one of the 4 primary modes to the row you want. The shift button has been moved closer to the pads for easier one-handed use, and the library controls in the corners have lots of room now, a benefit that comes from relocating the trim and filter nodes. Pressing the encoder moves the focus between panels, and while I've been critical of the S9 in the past for not making tracks load that way, the new larger load button works great and honestly seems less likely to result in an accidentally loaded track. Holding shift while you browse speeds through your library much faster, and there's also a slider on the screen. Shift plus load sends the highlighted track to the prepare crate. Shift plus load twice does a hardware deck move, which we'll get to, and Shift plus the back button cycles through the view on your Serato screen. The back button will also open and close primary crates to show all the sub-crates, so with a well-organized or at least well-understood library structure, you can really breeze through your music and keep your eyes off the laptop screen. Below that is the looping section with the familiar auto loop bar with halftime and double buttons. On the S9, the bar was a dedicated 4-beat loop, and on the S11, the loop length is now selectable within the software, and the bar just toggles the loop on and off. If you should want the S9 style, there is a loop option available in the settings where you can dial it in. Settings are now available on screen from the main menu, along with 6 primary functions. Browse brings up your library and allows you to sort through the highlighted crate by a few options while providing necessary information about the currently playing tracks on decks 1 and 2. When you're using Browse or any one of the other functions, tap that Andre 3 stacks in the bottom right corner to return to the main menu. Now, that's the button for it, but really, I found you can tap anywhere on this lower effects information panel like it's the little burger button, which is again a nice consideration for how the screen will actually be used in the field. Next, we have the effects settings with 4 banks you can customize independently until the cows come home, switchable on screen or by holding shift and tapping either arrow button. Tapping on filter brings up the 5-option color effects menu with resonance and feedback controls. The selector below shows the effect that is currently assigned to each of the buttons on the faceplate. The effects control section is laid out like the S9 with 6 buttons set to control hardware effects on the left, and on the right are buttons for the 6 software effects slots in Serato. Press on any button to change the individual parameters or change the effect entirely to any one of the 22 onboard hardware effects, or whatever effects you have assigned inside Serato. These built-in effects sound great and musical and offer gobs of audio metamorphosis when you're getting after it. Mojax has a video running through each hardware effect, so take a listen there if you want to hear them. Of note is a ducking echo, which I believe may have made its first appearance on a mixer back on the original OG 909, as well as the fader synth and pitch effects that will actually key match to the playing track now, so go nuts here. Interestingly, you can assign hardware effects to the software effect buttons if you want, or use Serato's isotope effects in alt slots if you so choose. The onboard effects can be summoned by holding the button and using the browse encoder to choose your desired effect, with the possibility of using 6 software effects and 1 hardware beat effect concurrently. Not that you should. And all these settings are saved to your computer, so you're good to go with any S11 you jump on. Mic Echo sets the beat value, where the knob on the front adjusts the volume now. And then we have the all-new Smooth Echo, which is essentially an independent echo effect that can be assigned to 6 different triggers to activate. This is a lot like the ducking echo, with the big caveat being the ability to use another effect in the main effects section, while still having an echo hit when you pull a fader or a cue or one of the other triggers. And trying to not make an impossibly long video, I won't delve into how each trigger functions, but I can say an incredible amount of consideration went into how this effect should sound and operate, and it's an effect I found increasingly beneficial and fun every time I mix with it. Smooth Echo is turned on and off by a small button conveniently flush next to the faders for fast access, and the menu can be quickly brought up over any screen by holding the button down. This effect affords new possibilities in routine and battle creativity by essentially giving you an extra hand and open effects bank. It's an outstanding addition and will become indispensable for a large number of DJs, I'm sure. The touch effects brings up an XY pad that applies one of 2 preset effects pairings to the axes, or applies the currently selected effect to the horizontal axis, and uses the bank selected filter mode on the vertical axis. While Pioneer actually designed the S11 so you can fully access and change everything you need to cut and mix music on this mixer without the need for a screen, this is one of the examples of a unique experience that can only be had with the screen. The XY pad concept isn't new, but it's executed well and a lot of fun to tweak and sometimes mangle your music. Waveform brings up a display for decks 1 and 2 showing loop length and track tempo, with key lock and sync buttons on screen by default and global effects information displayed across the bottom. Next up is, to me, the most exciting feature with the S11, and that's truly functional access to the virtual 3rd and 4th decks inside Serato. Those decks have long since been available, but the S11 actually makes their use quick and seamless, and the extra decks become tons of fun and entirely usable. You can have each deck in one of 4 modes. Simple View allows you to treat the virtual decks just like another channel, where you can browse and load tracks with sync control, a 4-beat loop, and a hot cue. The play and mute buttons are in the same spot across the bottom on all 4 screen layouts, which is a really good workflow touch. The hot cue mode shows all 8, and the mixer mode allows you to assign the channel to the crossfader and cue it up in your headphones, as well as adjust channel trim and fader controls. The mashup screen is set up to do just that. Deck Move takes the song from decks 1 or 2 and moves it to the 3rd or 4th virtual deck, where it maintains the trim and EQ settings of the channel when you moved it. At that point, you can load up another track to the physical deck and keep the mix with 3 or 4 channels rolling. Hitting the dual deck button will tie the virtual deck to the playing song on the physical deck. This allows them to be manipulated together as though it were a pre-produced blend. Cue points trigger both songs at that particular cue position as well, so a little cue point planning can go a long way in your routine and mix building. This Serato integration feels like it finally unlocks a level of creative potential previously unavailable anywhere. Big whoa, this is awesome, and I'm just barely covering it. Thinking about 4-deck stem playback while doing live production PA sets with this thing gets me super hyped. Touch Midi opens 4 banks of buttons assigned to various functions inside Serato. This is again really helpful, and in combination with the user pad modes should give you control of just about anything you need if it isn't already available. And here's a little something they don't tell you. You can remap these buttons to anything you want in the software. It doesn't show the newly mapped function on screen when you do, which is obviously a less than elegant solution, but it does get the job done. As I understand it, the job of implementing changes like that falls to Serato and not Pioneer. So definitely direct your kindly worded suggestions that-a-way, because this is absolutely how the touch and MIDI feature could work best. The settings gear opens a whole slew of control and performance adjustments, including display and browsing options, mic controls, and mixer customization. As with everything on this mixer, you will be rewarded by spending time digging into the finer details. And that's the beauty of the S11. It's easy to use, but hard to master. The layout has been greatly improved and streamlined. The face has physical buttons and knobs for everything important, but isn't overcrowded and somehow isn't excessive. Everything is functionally intuitive, and nearly all the most important and repetitive moves you need to execute in a set are only 1 or 2 moves away, even without using the screen. So the screen then becomes this extra tool that, on top of providing all the playback information you need to keep your eyes off the laptop, also can improve your workflow and open up 2 extra decks for really kind of anything you can think to do with 4 decks. It's also got a more durable paint job and the circuitry and guts of the 900 Nexus 2. It sounds really honest, which is to say your best mixes sound as good on here as any mixer you could hope to do them on. And any mistakes you make with the harmonics and EQ balance won't hide as easily on this clean and clear soundstage. But you'll be made a better DJ because of it. The S11 finds a beautiful balance by effectively eliminating the need to use your computer for anything other than typing out a search in your library, and combines it with the ease of use that's fully functional for the pro and accessible and approachable to the uninitiated. When the S9 dropped, it was the first battle mixer to feature the pad modes that debuted on the Pioneer SX controller, which non-coincidentally coincided with the release of Serato DJ. The S9 gave us an extended palette from which to work, and it changed a lot about how DJs could mix going forward. The S11 is set to do that all over again. Buckle up.
Hey, so about that S11, huh? This thing is a bad mamma jamma. I've had so much fun digging into the layers of control and creative opportunities this mixer affords. The layout and design keeps the great things about the previous generations and improves in most of the other areas it needed to. I say most because, of course, every DJ has their own way of doing things and could inevitably find something they might want changed, but really, that's the only reason why. This mixer will not leave you wanting no matter what kind of DJ you are. There's really a new freedom that comes with the smooth echo and scratch bank, no doubt. But to me, the real pièce de résistance is the control of the 3rd and 4th virtual decks. Those decks have long since been available, but the S11 actually makes their use quick and seamless. Before Serato came to market mid-2000s, I was playing the majority of my shows with 3 turntables, and it's really one of the 2 things I've missed most since adopting Scratch Live in 2005. Because while the SP6 and then later these virtual decks were still a way to technically accomplish 3 and 4 deck mixes, it was never really fun or convenient to use them that way, even with the dual layer support found on some controllers. But this changes that. And with the screen, you now have full library access right in front of you, so no need to go to your laptop. And with Touch Midi and the user pad modes, you can now control everything you need from Serato on the mixer right in front of you, so no need to go to your laptop. And that's the other thing I miss most about ye old days of playing all vinyl. The mixer and turntables was where I spent the majority of my time looking during my set, not at an augmented computer screen. I'll stop before I really begin to wax too philosophic on technology and DJing, but my whole point is, with the exception of running a search, all of your attention can return focus back to the gear right in front of you. And that's incredibly exciting to me, and will be for every professional DJ on stage when that part of the industry finds its way back home. This mixer appeals to the creative battle cats that are going to dive in and learn how they can get the ideas from their head to their hands a lot faster now. It appeals to producers that want to get into DJing and also want a way to integrate their tracks more interestingly. And it appeals to the novice with a really accessible aesthetic and ease of use, and the ability to use Serato and Record Box right out of the box means you don't have to commit to a platform before you even begin. The S11 is made for the professional and priced accordingly, and really only has one competitor in the market if you're looking for the whole onboard screen experience, and that's the Range 72 MK2. They're priced within $100 or $200 or so of each other, but have quite a different look and workflow. Personally, I prefer some things about one and some things about the other, and I assume any DJ that spends time on both will leave feeling the same way. But it's an incredibly amazing time to be a DJ because we have options available that I couldn't have even conceived of when I first started mixing. And though the current climate isn't particularly conducive to playing a lot of shows right now, there's never been a better time or a better way to get creative. Check us out at Deckademics.com/shop, where we have financing available to help you cop your S11 or any of the other gear we carry. Follow me, if you please, everywhere at Hand Lex and the school at Deckademics. Thanks for always rocking with us. Be sure to smash that like and subscribe, and remember, you can't download practice, so you better get to it. Peace, y'all.